On this video, we're going to talk everything scrape hunting with Jake Hofer. And Jake's got a lot of experience around this subject, and I think you guys are going to enjoy this timely video. Let's check it out. Now, let me ask this, Jake. October scrape detail, how much more excited and you might be able to see this like, okay, this buck hit a scrape once, and then he perused through like 1 or 2 times late October. But if he hits it twice before October 10th, you're like, dude, the amount of daylight of photos I got of him was 3 times what the other buck was. Do you see that? As far as, I don't get too giddy until I get 2 occurrences of a buck.
You know, that's a piece of data I really need to follow. I would say that's really important. This is something I do see often, is late October between, let's say, and this is kind of a wide time frame, but let's say like the 23rd to Halloween. If I get, this happens almost every year, I get a video of a giant. I have no clue, like, just shows up. That deer is there in November, like the first part of November, like every single time. And a lot of it's different time frames, I think, where he's really aggressively searching for that first doe. And then some occurrences, it's here in Illinois, like let's say the 10, 11, 12, 13th is sometimes be really, really boring, meaning all the bucks are locked down on does. But that buck that was going outside of a different area, a lot of times they're in there during that time frame, and a lot of times revisiting that same exact scrape. So that's something to really consider as you're checking cards of like, okay, well, giant buck in the middle of the night, that really doesn't, I'm not too excited about that. Don't give up on it.
Okay, see now, because like I just described, like that, I would have kind of tossed that aside, like, oh, he's just on a mission. But it sounds like he's now moved into the block, and now he's got to scout out his does, and he's probably a little more killable than I would think. But I would be interested. To me, I start getting really giddy if I have a buck walk by a camera twice before October 15th on a scrape. Because I had somebody, Weston, I can't think of his last name, but he was telling me he likes the rule of, okay, if a buck has walked by your camera or got on camera, he's probably walked within 50 yards of that camera 3 times for every 1 picture. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Now, if you get like a repeater, I'm like, dude, like that's
a lot of time.
Yeah. That, and honestly, I had just heard that January of this year, that 3-to-1 ratio kind of thing. And I'm definitely like a little more, I like that thought, because I have seen, the scrape's the place to be. And there's like, I don't know, literally watch deer go around it, and they come onto the shelf and move right off it. It takes a lot, especially I run a lot of elevated sets, that they got to step right there. 15th through the 24th. What do you see as far as some of the trends in scrape data, maybe mornings versus evenings? Is that a trend you may throw 2 cents at? Because I've killed 2 bucks, I think, in the evenings. But honestly, I think my trail cam data maybe shows the opposite, as far as like it seems to be a morning game the final 5 to 6 days of October.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think evenings provide a better opportunity for actually killing the deer. They may be more active in the morning, but it's still challenging to have really good solid access in the morning, depending on, obviously this depends on what part of the country you're in, but like some of the farms I hunt, it's suicide to go in the morning, like before first light. You're going to scare a bunch of deer. Mm-hmm. Where it's okay, they're positioned, they're bedded, and they're going to get up, want to munch, go to food. And so that's where I think it's a little bit more predictable. But even the hunt Friday morning, I had really good access to where I felt solid with that, with morning access. That'll be a scrape I'll definitely hunt in the morning if the data starts showing that. But overall, I would agree that evenings seem to be a better opportunity to actually kill one. But I do think, depending on the location of the scrape, mornings may be more active, but it provides another set of challenges. Okay.
And the 15th through, I'm going to call it 24th. Is that still, you got to have a front, you got to have a rain, you need something? If it's a random Tuesday with average temperatures and no, barometers average, like it's probably not the strike time.
They'll still, I've had like the outliers, like absolutely. Yeah, they'll still hit it. So it's like, if you have the opportunity to go and you feel good about it, go. I'm not the one to tell you what to do, but I'm going to try to coordinate it with a cold front hunting a lot of these smaller parcels where it's like, I need to try to be as efficient as possible. I want my farm to have the least amount of pressure ideally, but I still want to be lethal. It's this constant battle that I really, really struggle with, of like, you got to go to kill them. but you also want to go at the most opportune time where you have an opportunity. So it's a battle it's something I battle with every single day. Like this time of year, I'm thinking, well, what do? Do you push into? So the long and short of it is rambling a little bit is like, yes, if you feel good about it and you think you have the historical data possibly, or you have the right wind where you can hunt that scrape where you typically can't, maybe you can only hunt it on a south wind, which means, it's going to be warm. Well, go hunt it.
Because you may wait till that final week of October and never get your south wind.
Exactly. So I think that goes into a lot of it too.
Okay. Let's talk about daylight action. And you said you don't feel there's a huge trend mornings versus evenings, but is the 24th the date where it's going to happen at this point?
24th and 25th are probably the most active scrape days year over year, no matter what. So I would agree that it's a great time.
November 1, are you starting to shift to non-scrape hunting?
I don't know. I've killed a lot of deer on like the November 3rd. I've killed multiple bucks on a scrape still.
Yeah.
So it's like, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I'm waiting on this one.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, yes and no. I mean, a lot of it's still in relation to doe bedding and everything else. But I mean, I'm hunting scrapes basically the whole year. I'll be honest, whether it's right or wrong. Like there's always a reason to be on a scrape, depending on the farm, depending on the terrain, depending on how many bucks in the area. That's just my opinion. I mean, even I've had big bucks hitting scrapes in January. Well, I mean, okay, you can't bait. And if I don't have a good food source, well, that's probably one of the best and most predictable spots for that particular farm. So I just think as people are listening to this, obviously this is the peak time for scrape opportunities, but don't overlook it later in the year too, because there's still chances there. As bucks get off their first doe and looking for the next one, they're probably going to be correlating to some sort of scrape. When all the does that didn't get bred the first time, they're probably going to be correlating with some sort of scrape. When a yearling goes into heat, they're probably going to be correlating with some form or fashion of a scrape. So that's kind of what my thoughts are.
Yeah. And I think out of the last 5 years, I have made the mistake of November hits, and it's so easy to be like, I'm going to go hunt pinch points, doe bedding, and kind of abandon some of the scrape game. But if I look at my photos and kind of getting back to that trend we talked about literally 10 minutes ago, it's like, dude, if I get 10, even if I just have 10 bow hunts in November and I hunted a scrape on all of them, I kind of like my chances.
Yeah.
For shooting a good buck, maybe not a specific deer, but
sure.
Yeah. I think out of the last 5 years, I need to be staying on those scrapes until at least here in Ohio, 5th, 6th, 7th. And then there's like a 7-day break. And then I still see a lot of good bucks, right around like the 15th through the end of the